My name is Patti Larsen, and I am a full-time award-winning young adult and adult paranormal author. I've known since I was 12 years old. Yeah, I've always wanted to be a writer. I remember my dad reading me The Lord of the Rings when I was 6 years old and having these horrendous nightmares because I had such an overactive imagination. But falling in love with it, absolutely. Playing Dungeons and Dragons with my father as the dungeon master as a child. And then at 12 years old, stumbling on Nancy Drew. I had never read a young adult book in my life. And so a girlfriend of mine gives me this copy of a Nancy Drew mystery. I read it in 2 hours because I'm devouring these giant books at 12, right? And read the book and looked up from it to see my parents on either end of the couch reading. That was our huge thing in our family. And I said, you know what? I think I can do this. And my mom kind of laughed, but my dad went to the closet and he dug out my mom's old typewriter from when she was in college, and he set it up and he showed me how to use it, and I've been writing pretty much ever since then. And it's funny because I didn't realize it, but until just a couple of years ago. I lost my dad 15 years ago, but I didn't realize until a few years ago that he wanted to be a writer and he never had the courage, or he never had the opportunity. And so hearing me say that must have triggered something massive in him. So he was always super supportive of my writing. 5 years ago in January, this coming January, I actually took the plunge though. I sold my successful small business, a hair salon, and started writing full time. And it was a total out of the blue thing. It was just the year before. It was the February or March before, I think. I had done the screenwriter boot camp with Louise Lalonde, and I was told by the gentleman who was teaching us that I should be in Toronto writing television. And I thought, okay, well maybe that's what I should be doing then. I've been wanting to write my whole life. I've been rejected my whole life. I've never come to a place where I could be a writer because no one would publish me. But he gave me that push of confidence and said, no, you're good enough. Come to Toronto and write for television. And at that same time, though, my niece had handed me a copy of Harry Potter, and I hadn't gone back to YA until that point. And so everything I was writing was actually for adults, and it just didn't really quite feel the same as my screenwriting. Didn't quite feel exactly what I needed to be doing, but I was still loving it. And when I read Harry Potter, it was like the 12-year-old girl in me said, do you remember Nancy Drew? Do you remember that you're supposed to be telling stories for teenagers? And so literally within just a couple of days of reading the Harry Potter series, I blew through them. I read Twilight, I read The Hunger Games, I blew through all of them. After reading those, I woke up in the middle of the night with a girl's voice in my head, and this is how my creative process works. Some writers see things, some writers hear things, whatever. I see whole scenes in my head because I'm a filmmaker as well as a prose writer. But she woke me up and she said, you gotta get out of bed, get up right now, go to your office, get up. And so I did. I got up, I sat down. She said, write this down. My mom's a witch, my dad's a demon, and I just want to be ordinary. And from there, it took me about a week to outline the first book. And I wrote the first book, Family Magic, in 2 weeks. And it was awesome. I was giving it to my sister and her daughter, the same one who handed me Harry Potter, to read chapter by chapter as I was finishing them. And they were excited and I was excited. And for the first time, everything clicked. So I started pitching to agents, and agents were coming back saying, we love this idea, give us the full manuscript. And so again, for the first time, I was getting this positive feedback. And I came home from the salon one day, and not that I hated what I did, but it wasn't filling me up the way I really wanted it to. And I said, I'm gonna sell the salon and write full time. And he said, okay. And thank goodness he did. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have such a supportive partner. So within 6 months, I had sold the salon and I was writing full time. I had people all around me afraid for me, saying, why don't you keep the salon and write on the side? You're such a good hairdresser. You're so good at what you do. You know, it's guaranteed money. Why? And I'm like, no. I've never felt such relief as I did the day I cashed the check for the salon and started writing. It was the very first time in my life I was a writer, and that's all I ever wanted. As I had some tough times the first year and a half or so, financially, only because it takes a long time to build up your readership and to, there's no magic bullet with this. Some people have a magic bullet and they do really well, and that's phenomenal. But like any other business, it takes 3 to 5 years in order to get to a place where you're comfortable financially. So I don't necessarily recommend you do what I did, but it was the right thing for me. It was absolutely the right thing for me. The very first thing I recommend you do, and this might sound harsh, but it's a really tough industry right now because it's like the Wild West. There's so many writers thinking, oh, I can do this, and jumping out and publishing, and no offense to them, but publishing work that's not ready to be published. And so the most important thing writers who want to do this professionally need to be aware of is your skills have to be on a level where you're able to be not only good enough to be consumed by readers, but a professional. So a professional attitude, a professional demeanor. Complaining on Facebook because no one's buying your books is so unprofessional and it looks really bad. You need to be in a place where you're comfortable with your talent and you're comfortable with your professionalism enough that all of that stuff, dirty laundry, doesn't get aired. And so there's the balance of the artist knowing their art and the business person understanding how to be a professional. But once you have those two pieces, go for it. And I think that's why a lot of people hesitate too, because the fear of failure means that they're probably not. They probably aren't ready. And so dabble in it, do it part-time. Don't take that as an excuse not to do it. But, I've been writing since I was 12. I'm 43. I have a whole lifetime of experience, not just as a prose writer, but as a songwriter, as a screenwriter, as a journalist. And so I've combined all of those disciplines, and I've worked incredibly hard to get to a place where I can string words together so they make sense and create characters that people like. Am I the best writer in the world? No. But my readers love what I create because I'm in a place where I don't have to think about my art. I don't have to think about what I'm doing. I have enough skill that I can stop thinking and just write. I feel like I'm still at the beginning of the journey, even though I have 57 books out and I have readers emailing me every day or Facebooking me or whatever, asking for the next book or telling me how I've touched them or whatever. It feels like it's always going to be the beginning of the journey because every book is a new place. It's a new starting point. But the confidence is still there. The happiness is still there. I'm backing off my production a little bit more because I'm able to. I don't have to. I spent 3 years literally nose to the grindstone, did nothing but write. Last year alone I put out 18 books. And so this year I'm starting to pull back a little bit, and next year, so I have like a 5-year plan going forward. I know exactly how many books I'm going to put out next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. And so that's part of it as well, is having that organization and the skills to organize yourself. But it just feels, we talked about this earlier, but I still have those days where I wake up and stumble out of bed and head into the bathroom and stop myself and, don't I have a job? This is my job? Really? And there's this moment of, da-dum, da-dum, wait a second, nobody's paying my paycheck, nobody's taking care of me, this is all on me. And it goes away quickly because I think I get to do what I love for a living and people pay me for that. How incredible is that? That is amazing, absolutely amazing. And so those moments are startling because it's been 5 years, right? Well, it's been three and a bit since I started publishing on my own. I feel great. Have a 3 to 5 year plan. It's going to take that long to actually make money. You might beforehand, and that's fabulous, good for you if you do. But if you have that 3 to 5 year plan at the end of that 5 years, then you're at least going to be making back what you put into each book, right? I was very fortunate. It was 9 months for me. We're definitely moving towards acceptability of independent publishers. There's way less garbage being produced. And I kind of laugh at people who complain about the guy who writes the monster porn and puts it online, or the grandmother who writes a terrible kids book and puts it online, because those books will have awful rankings and they'll never be seen. You know, so why are you complaining? These people, that, you know, if they want to do that, let them do it. That's fantastic. Good for you, especially the grandmother part. If you want to actually be seen, you have to produce quality work with quality cover, quality editing, etc., etc. So you need to be a professional. You need to be willing to pay for it. You have to be organized. And so we're moving into that. So we're leaving the Wild West a little bit, and we're heading more into, you know, less pioneer and more into developing an actual city. And, you know, we've got some really amazing writers who are making incredible progress. Like Hugh Howey is one, for example. Amanda Hawking was one of the pioneers. J.A. Conrad. And so they're creating these paths and showing independent authors who are willing to put the work in and who are dedicated to making it a career that, yes, it is possible. So they're like our flagship people, you know, our standard bearers. So it's becoming less gold rushy, because a lot of people are thinking, oh, independent publisher, I'm going to make a ton of money, I'll put a book out and everybody will buy it and I'll make a millionaire. And it doesn't work that way, right? So like any other business, you have to develop your readership. You have to develop a connection with the people who are buying your books. You have to find the people who are buying your books. You have to understand who's going to buy your books. And so there's all of these skills that you have to learn: marketing, editing, formatting, not just the writing. You know, there's all these things that come into play, and, you know, understanding the internet and how to use a computer. You know, there's a lot of people who don't. And so we've come from everybody doing it all themselves into kind of an uprising of these small digital publishing houses who are flash in the pan and are gone, and also these companies who are charging people to publish books, which is highly unethical. They're starting to fall to the wayside finally now, and we're getting into the revolution is actually taking off. People are recognizing the fact that a lot of the independent work that's coming out is awesome. It's fabulous, and that we don't need traditional publishing to write great books and to produce great books. And so the last barrier really is the bookstores, so the soft and hardcover sales. Digital sales, we're doing phenomenally well, but it's breaking down that barrier in the book selling world. That's going to be the last one that we have to deal with, I think. Basic business skills, really: accounting, bookkeeping, understanding that, yes, you have to pay taxes, that you need to apply for an international or an independent taxpayer number in the States, so you don't have to file an income tax statement in the States. Just the willingness to learn. It's a huge learning curve. It's not complicated, but there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot to know. Understanding basic marketing, understanding basic social media, not even social networking, but just the social media side of it. The fact that you're not selling to people on social media, it's about connecting with people and making them like you first. Then they will go buy your product, right? So there's all that buy my book or buy my product that goes around Twitter and Facebook and whatever, right? Yeah, business skills and marketing skills, and just the willingness to find out how to do it the right way. And a little bit of savvy when it comes to understanding that everything you hear isn't going to be accurate. And also being willing to accept advice from people, because if you're going to be stubborn about it, like I was in the beginning, it's going to be a much rockier road for you. So being totally open-minded and trusting that as long as you believe your product is good enough, then people will buy it. You just need to develop those skills around finding the right people to buy them. My first big mistake was believing in the dream. So the giant contract, the perfect agent, the perfect publishing company, and That is very, very rare, extremely rare. And not understanding the publishing industry, there was a time when that was possible, but the publishing industry, traditional publishing industry, has shifted over into financial rather than creative. And so a lot of books have to be approved by the finance department rather than the creativity department, so the editors, etc. Which is hugely unfortunate, because then you're seeing a lot of cookie cutter books coming out of publishing companies, because it's expensive for them to take on anything that might be risky or different or whatever, which is why independent publishing is so popular. But so I believed that for about a year and a half, and I finally woke up and thought, you know what? I used to be my own boss. Why am I looking for one? It's about quality, but it's also about quantity. The present writing market, if you're a prolific writer, if you're able to produce, 3 to 6 books a year, you are going to find a readership and you are going to make money. Series is the best way to go, or serials. There's a sort of a move towards serials now, so stories that are broken down, almost like a soap opera kind of idea. People who are commuting, subways, reading in a checkout line, that kind of stuff. Very, very popular, so you're keeping them fairly short. Being independent, like I said, you're able to produce and release your books at whatever rate you choose. And so rather than making them wait, you can put out, if you do it in a serial, you can put out an episode a week for 21 weeks and there's your season. Or you can do 3 books a year and they have their 6-book series in 2 years and they're thrilled. Not only that, it turns around into great sales when somebody finds the first book, because all of a sudden they've bought all 20 or they've bought all whatever, and then they're telling their friends and they buy all. So it creates this, the backlist creates this avalanche of income. Mm-hmm. You can do this anywhere because it's all digital, right? Even my print stuff, mind you, I'm starting to do more traveling for work, and so I'll go to conferences and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I published to Amazon and Kobo and the iBookstore and Barnes & Noble, and it's a click of a mouse. Super simple. Even my paperbacks, they're available through Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and they're available all over the world. If you live in China, if you live in Mexico, if you live in California, you can go on and one click and my book's delivered to your door. So there's no need to go to New York, although I do love New York and I do go often, but there's no need to be based there or to have to worry about, because there's no agents involved and there's no publisher involved, which is remarkable considering where we live. To be on even footing with anyone living in PEI, that's pretty darn cool. Yeah. Because that's so rare, right? PEI is, little PEI. Everybody thinks little PEI. But no, I could be in the Arctic. I could be on a boat as long as I had internet access, right? So it's great to know that I can make my home here still, where I love to live, where my family is, and still be successful and make lots of money. And money goes further here too, which is really nice. Have fun. Don't forget that it's fun, because we can forget it's fun. Especially, I talk to a lot of indies who get frustrated. They're tired. They're beaten down by critics, by reviewers, by whoever. They're not making money, and I'm like, you've lost sight of the fun. You really have. And if that's the case, maybe you need to take a little break and go back to the fun part. Write something because you enjoy it, not because it's going to make you money. Because if you write something you're going to enjoy, it's going to make you money. If you're trying to write something to make money, chances are it's not going to work out, right? So the fun aspect is definitely important. I know I have a whole list of these things that I tell students, actually. And be a professional. Always, always be a professional. This is the best job ever. It's the best job ever. I get to listen to voices in my head. Everywhere I go, I could be sitting at dinner, and this happens all the time, sitting at dinner with friends and they talk about something random and there's a book idea and I'm writing it on a napkin. You know, it's a fabulous job. It's so much fun. As long as you're patient and you're willing to put the work in, it's incredibly satisfying and joyful, and yeah,